My name is Angela Jane Rosehart, and I'm the founder of Rose Alchemy Healing. I'll be starting Rose Oracle Podcasts, which will bring education to cultivate catalytic inspiration that will propel and motivate from within. Rather than being pushed from the outside, I intend to bring transmissions of transformation that will move people beyond intellectual stimulation and will shift one's consciousness from the inside out. I hope you will join me and my wonderful inspirational guests beginning in September. Hey there, this is Angela Jane Rosehart with Rose Oracle Podcast, and I'm so excited that today, September 11th at 11 o'clock, I will be interviewing my first guest, Raylene and Abbot. Raylene's spiritual training has spanned over the last 45 years, and she received initiations by both Western and Eastern traditional teachers. She has worked with the Native American teachers for 12 years, which gave her a deep connection with Mother Nature. Her training also includes over 20 years of working with mantra meditation from many different traditions around the world. She began to study the history of the goddess and the Black Madonna in 1992, which opened her path to living in France for 4.5 years, where she was published. Her passion led her to traveling the pilgrimage route of the Black Madonna and Magdalene. Raylene is a mystical writer, but her love of research and history offers a historical foundation to her writings. She writes about sacred flora, herbs, and healing the separation of spirituality from nature and sexuality. The year 2014, Raylene was presented her ancestral genealogy of her father's lineage, which goes back to the 4th century lineage of the kings of France. She discovered that her bloodline can be traced back to the Merovingian kings of France. They call this lineage the Rose line. Her newly found realization was that she had pilgrimaged, made offerings, and written about her own ancestors. When she was traveling in Europe, she had a gift of interpreting the heresy symbols found in the architecture of the church and also the Marseille Tarot. Raylene is an international author in spite that she had severe dyslexia. Her book was published in France in 2006, L'Émergence des Femmes Divines, The Emergence of the Divine Woman. This same book later was published in Italy, Turkey, Japan, and the U.S. as Between the Visions. Her recent books, A Mystic's Journey to the Sacred Sites of France and The Hidden Magdalene in the Tarot Marseille. She is also an author of several different books. She has been creating herbal remedies since 1970s, growing wild crafting, making cosmetics, and crafting healing teas. Her childhood devotion to Mother Mary and Lady Guadalupe has inspired both her art and healing. Please help me welcome my guest, Raylene and Abbot. So thank you so much, Raylene, for being with me today. I'm so grateful that on today, of all days, September 11th, here at 11:03, interestingly enough, you are my very first guest on Rose Oracle Podcast, so welcome.
Thank you. And thank you, Angela.
So I just want to start by saying that the very first time I ever met you was, it was a beautiful, I believe it was a spring day in Ashland, Oregon at the Goddess Temple of Ashland, and I had not heard of you or met you previously, I don't believe. And you were going to be doing a ceremony there, and out in front on the grass was a stunning flower mandala, an elemental mandala. And I remember you had said that there was people that had sent you flowers and seeds and pods from all over the world, and it was the most amazing thing to witness. And I wondered if you might just start a little bit with explaining what that, the flower and elemental healing mandala is all about.
Yeah. I actually started making those mandalas as offerings when I was in Paris. And I'd be with a group, and to center the group, I would, take petals of the flowers, and it began with them bringing me roses. And I'd take a couple of women, and we would all make this mandala. And as we did it, we would pray on and stay focused. We didn't talk. It was a real meditation. And each mandala was completely different. And then at the end, I was teaching different types of mantra from different traditions. And we would mantra over these mandalas for anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. Mm. And at the end, I would pass it out to everyone in the group. And they would go to places in the streets of Paris, especially places where people had died, or there were, places like the guillotine, places where women were burned in front of Saint-Germain-des-Prés, places where the Jews were killed by the Nazis, and we would leave these flowers as an offering to what had happened there, to change the recording that when there's a trauma, when there's a tragedy, the earth actually records it until somebody comes along that understands that and can start beginning to transform that through making offerings. And the elements, as far as the elementals are concerned, the elements are fire, water, earth, air, and essence, as they would say in Western tradition, or space in the Eastern traditions. They actually mirror everything that has happened and what we do, which are different than the angelic kingdom, which is just on this purity. But the elements are here to mirror in our face how humanity thinks, the emotions of humanity. So each element mirrors a different emotion of humanity, and that we can learn from them. But most people have forgotten. They think so. The water reflects the element of water, so our emotions reflect humanity's emotions reflect in the element of water. So after centuries and centuries of thought forms on this planet, you can see we're not doing too good of a job because humanity's emotions are polluted, and the outer reflection of that is our water is polluted. It goes with the element of thought, or the element of air in our thoughts and humanity's thoughts. The element of fire is our creative spark. And the element of space is, you can see all these crowded conditions, that we don't have space. And that includes space for each other. We don't know how to hold space. We have to keep really, really busy. And of course, the element of earth, the dense of all elements, the material plane, which would include our physical bodies. So the elemental nature and making offerings to the elements will mirror to you your own inner process of aligning and cleaning these things up in yourself. And does that make sense?
Yes. It's, I have said and will say that the beauty and the loving energy that I experienced that day was just in stark contrast, of course, to our world. And I was so enmeshed in the frequency of that, the idea of what you shared that day. I don't know that you even know this. I've done my best to share the Ave Maria de la Mer and prayer and speak your name in my ceremonies almost every single time.
Oh, thank you, dear.
And I may not even be doing it absolutely correctly as you had done, but I did my best, and I just wanted to say thank you. And witnessing that day was really powerful and life-changing for me, as I'm sure it was for the many women that were there that day to witness that. So, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. The pronunciation isn't the most important thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Meaning it's the intention of your heart. Mm. So there's an old yogic story. I'm going to go to in the East. There's these two very humble yogis on an island, and this really big teacher comes by, and he rows his boat to the island, and these yogis are saying a mantra, and he says, "Oh, no, you're pronouncing it all wrong." So he teaches the yogis. The yogis are really, really humble and say, "Oh, thank you." And so he gets in his boat and he rows away. And all of a sudden, he sees the yogis running across the water. And he's astounded. They're walking on water. And the yogis are saying, "Oh, we forgot the words of the mantra. Tell us again." So that's an old yogi story. But, the Ave Maria de la Mer, Ave Maria de la Terre, Ave Maria de Feu, Ave Maria de l'air is a mantra I received on the Annunciation of August 5th of the Blessed Mother in Port Grammou, which is like a little Venice in the south of France in Provence. And I was sitting there and on the canals with a pocket of roses, and my French is not my pronunciation of French and even English isn't that great, but I started putting roses out and making that offering, and pretty soon these little dry roses that had been in my pocket, and as I put them out, all the roses opened on the canal, and I ended up at the end of the day. They do a blessing where they take the Madonna out of the church and they bless all the boats. And at the end of the day, I ended up right in the boat that was behind the Madonna as we went through, and I watched them blessing the boats, and they had the most beautiful, young girl in the boat with, the priest, and they're blessing all the boats of the harbor with holy water. So it was very special for me, and that one I do every day since then.
Yeah, I love it. I definitely need to work on my pronunciation, just as you said that.
But it's okay. You don't, and just to know it's the intention. Good. It's the intention. And the only reason I say that, it's really good with a lineage, when you learn a prayer or a lineage, is when you honor the lineage of where that comes from, that energy goes right behind you. So when you say, an old Eastern prayer, from the East, or a mantra, and what actually happens is everyone that said that mantra on the inner planes shows up and supports you.
That's beautiful. Well,
so that's the honoring the lineage. That's that part.
I just wanted to tell you that I've literally had, I had 18 women do it with me on Beltane 2 years ago, and I've since had numerous women and a few men a few times, but mostly women, doing our best to hold these intentions, and I always say your name, and I wanted to tell you that.
Oh, thank you, Angela. I appreciate it.
Yes,
and
it's so...
the Ave, and the reason, just to explain a little bit more, is when you say an awakened one, an enlightened one, and put it with the element, that actually does something. So an enlightened one, especially like, the Divine Mother is so pure. And so our elemental kingdom down here on the earth is really, really polluted from our actions, our physical actions, but also from